Last week, the Scottish Government said that the PCR tests were safer than the lateral flow tests, but still it does not use the full capacity of that PCR testing to hunt down the virus. The First Minister's just said that demand for that PCR testing is not at the full capacity. So why are we not using that to hunt down the virus in our communities? And if half the people who have the virus don't know they've got it, why isn't the Scottish Government using that capacity to find them? That should be the priority for the Government.
First Minister.
Okay, PCR tests are not safer than lateral flow tests. They are more sensitive and more specific, and I think that's not a pedantic point. That's really important. Secondly, PCR testing is the route we use for symptomatic testing, and it's important, particularly when transmission is rising, that we ensure the capacity is there to test everybody who comes forward with symptoms, and that is what happened. Turnaround times for testing through that system now are, at the moment, I'm touching wood here, extremely good. And we also use PCR testing for some of the routine testing we are doing in care homes, for care home staff, for example. Symptomatic people, that we think it is better to use lateral flow testing is, and this is apart from the sensitivity and how specific they are, this is the other big difference between PCR and lateral flow testing, is the speed of results. So with PCR testing, even with the quick turnaround times, it takes time to get the results. With lateral flow testing, we can give people results much, much quicker. And for people with, who don't have symptoms, that is the preferable way of trying to get that mass testing to people. So we are not using capacity. We are seeking to use the different capacities and the different technologies we have in the most effective way to overall collectively keep the virus under control through testing. Testing, of course, important though it is only one aspect of the strategy that we have to deploy against it.
Willie Rennie.
The First Minister's just said she's not using all the capacity. What kind of contortion is that? The reality is that there's 65,000 tests available, and she's at best only using half of them. Just like on business grants, the Government is great at making announcements on testing, but very poor on the actual delivery. And when our hospitals are bursting at the seams, we should be using the gold-plated tests, the gold standard tests, to hunt down the people in our community who've got this virus because they don't know it. That is the best way to stop the spread. Now, I've made positive suggestions for weeks on end in this chamber, and the First Minister has repeatedly poo-pooed them. And still we find out they're not using the capacity that's available. So let me make another positive suggestion today, and I hope the First Minister is able to act on this. Mobile PCR testing units at supermarkets, Royal Mail sorting offices, police stations, schools, to test the people on the front line of the pandemic with the best test that we've got available for them. Will she agree to that? Or is she just going to stick in this rut that she's got herself into?
First Minister.
Yeah, of course, Scotland's the only country that's currently tackling this pandemic. We're not in a rut. We're in the face of a global pandemic that we are seeking to lead the country through. I'm not going to commit to all of that, no, because there are very good reasons why it wouldn't be sensible to do that. The kind of places Richard Leonard talks about are exactly the kind of places we are going to seek to do lateral flow testing through the kind of sites that we piloted before Christmas. With PCR testing, we do use it for routine, ongoing, asymptomatic testing of certain groups. But the reason we would be making a mistake if we tried to use all of our capacity for PCR testing for asymptomatic mass testing is that then it's not available if we see the rates of symptomatic testing requiring that to be used. So we have to balance all of the different capacities we have for testing in a sensible way, in the way that other countries do as well. So I know these things are complicated, but there are reasons why the way we do things, while not perfect and absolutely not beyond being improved where that is required, there are reasons why we use testing in the particular ways that we do.